Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kim Schmidt. I'm the executive editor of Farm Equipment. Thanks for joining us for today's digital demonstration with Preston Premley and Bill Albaugh with Dawson Tire and Wheel. Today, Preston and Bill will discuss the new TreadSure 2.0 release, measuring ag tires with new TreadSure gauges, creating reports, and adding a TreadSure report to your listing or sharing it with customers. Before they get started with their presentation, just a couple of housekeeping items. On your screen, there's a control panel with a Q&A icon. You can submit questions here at any time, and then time permitting, we'll try to answer as many of those as possible. And then, like always, we are recording today's session, so if you want to go back and watch it again or share it with anyone else at the dealership, that will be available to everyone who registered on the Farm Equipment website in the next day or so. With that, we are ready to get started. Thanks again for joining us, and you can take it away, Preston and Bill.
All right, thanks, Kim. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Preston Parmley. I am the product and sales manager here at TreadSure. First off, thank you so much for joining today. Really got us several exciting things to talk about, as today is kind of our official announcement of our 2.0 release of the TreadSure application. So we'll kind of start out today with talking a little bit about kind of an overview of who we are and what TreadSure is. We'll kind of dive into some of the benefits of utilizing TreadSure kind of as a salesman or a used equipment manager level, and then kind of talk about what is included with 2.0. And then we also have a live video demo that kind of goes through one of our new features of the 2.0 application as well. But joining us today also is Bill Albaugh. Bill brings a ton of experience with the used equipment business and space. So Bill, do you want to give yourself a quick introduction and then we can kind of dive right into the slides?
Hello, excuse me. Yeah, it's Bill Albaugh. I've been around the bush a time or two. Been in this business for 30 plus years in various different capacities on the manufacturer side, in the construction arena, in the John Deere world, John Deere dealership world as used equipment, and as a corporate sales manager and location manager. Went out on my own about 3 years ago on some different tasks with used equipment, and appreciative for Preston to ask me to be a panelist on this webinar. I think you're going to find some really good things to take a look at when it comes to helping evaluate used equipment. So thanks, Preston.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. So with that, we'll kind of just dive into it here, starting with kind of what is TreadSure and who we are. So TreadSure is a mobile application. We've been around now and available on the App Store for just over a year and a half. And really, for those of you who aren't aware, we're the first of its kind mobile application that was really designed to evaluate tires on used equipment whenever they get brought in for trade, listed for resale, or for auction. That's kind of, what we are in a nutshell. But really where TreadSure started was the problem in the industry of providing accessibility to tire data in order to accurately evaluate the tire life remaining. This was really to address the problem of, it's not a scalable or sustainable solution to go around every tire, measure, search online for the up-to-date or most latest manufacturer spec data. And it also was created to kind of eliminate the need for kind of the best guess on tire life remaining when you're doing a used equipment evaluation. So what we've done to kind of address the accessibility is we've created a robust database that includes more than a dozen manufacturer data books. And we kind of coupled that with a really streamlined and easy to use user interface that really allows you to measure, calculate, and determine that tread life remaining in a matter of seconds, and eliminating, again, that kind of searching around for the information or just flat out guessing on the tire life. But that accessibility is really kind of only the first step on what we are working towards creating, because we also need to have the transparency to that information that we calculate. So the TreadSure application also, especially with 2.0, does some pretty cool things with formatting our calculation results and putting it into a format that can be easily shared with your customers, but also used internally, whether you're a salesperson, a used equipment manager, or involved with that piece of equipment in any way, and really just trying to provide that transparency of what's going on with the tires, and helping you make better selling or buying decisions with that information. And I guess to talk a little bit more about the benefits of TreadSure as a dealer salesperson, used equipment manager. Bill, I'll hand it off to Bill here. Bill, if you want to kind of touch on some of the benefits from the dealer seat in the stands.
Yeah, because when I found out about TreadSure, the first thing I thought about is how many times in my life have I evaluated trades and tried to figure out what percentage was left of rubber on a tire, or when I was going out and trying to buy a piece of used equipment for a dealership that I was working for, the shape of the tires that we were buying of that tractor. This is a great picture of a pen trying to measure a tread depth. And I've seen hands, I've seen fingers, I've seen pencils, I've seen pens, I've seen, tractors with snow-covered tires, tractors with mud covers tires, and you don't know what those tread depths are. So number one, you're advertising with confidence because anything you're putting into your dealer website, Tractor House, Machine Repeat, Fastline, Tractor Zoom, you have that accurate measurement of the tread depth. So that actually leads into the integrity of the listing. So all of a sudden, when somebody's looking at that piece of equipment from 600 miles away, he automatically trusts more of that listing because of an accurate measurement in the tire brand and manufacturing brand that's on there. I know that in the Deere world, a lot of stuff comes into MF Pro and it has original build specs. And so when a lot of times those tractors get traded in and they have different tire sizes or different brands. So it verifies the tire brand, it verifies the tread depth remaining. So it's an accurate measurement to help with the integrity of the listing. But it also is one of those things that when I've been in that seat when we've sold a tractor and he comes back and says, you told me that rubber was 65%. And when you're basing it on pictures of a tractor that may be 200 miles from your location, and you're guessing on what you sold them at. Again, even from an internal standpoint, store to store with the integrity of the other branches, knowing what those tread depth is and the tire manufacturer is, to list those tires from an integrity standpoint. And again, it provides a very streamlined into your used equipment process. The pictures, the listing, and everything can be uploaded right into your used equipment listing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this picture is one that we stumbled upon here recently, and I'm not really too sure what we're trying to identify here. The condition of the tire looks good, and I guess the guy's got a really cool pen as well. So again, trying to improve kind of that transparency piece is really where we see a lot of benefit with some of the new stuff with TreadSure. And with that, talking about what is new with TreadSure 2.0. So with this release, we now have two different versions of the TreadSure application. Our basic version is a free to use, free to download version of the app. And it's really exactly the same as kind of the previous versions of TreadSure. It allows users to have access to that database that I spoke about a couple slides ago and calculate the tire life remaining on kind of a 1Z, 2Z type basis. The workflow of the basic really isn't designed for high volumes of equipment doing a lot of tires all the time. And that's where kind of our pro version of the application really stands out. And the pro version of the application is a paid access feature set. It's for dealership organizations. And then as an employee, as part of that dealership, you then become a user with pro access there, and gives you a couple more features that, again, were designed to really help with the high volumes, doing a lot of equipment evaluations through the application. So there's some streamlined workflow and ways that we kind of generate the results that really kind of integrate nicely with existing processes out there today on used equipment. So our flagship feature of 2.0 and the pro version of 2.0, is the TreadSure Reports. I won't dive too far into that because that is kind of what we go over in the live video demo here in a bit. But we also offer some other cool features such as the tire trade-ins. And that's kind of the phone screen you see off to the right there. So with 2.0 as a pro, with pro access, you'll be able to basically submit trade-ins on your equipment directly through the application. And this is actually powered by our friends over at Dawson Tire and Wheel. And you can take pictures, do all your measurements and calculations around the machine, and it bundles all that up, sends it over to Dawson Tire and Wheel, and then they have all the information that they need to get you a quote back on those trades in as little time as possible. So it kind of eliminates that need for a lot of back and forth, email or text photos. It all just comes in one package ready to go. And because of that, Dawson Tire also offers a 5% premium payout on trades for any pro dealership that is currently using the application. So also a great little feature as part of 2.0, and really kind of streamlines anytime a customer wants to update or needs a new set of tires because he changed geographical locations. But again, in that video, we'll kind of talk more about TreadSure Reports, which that's kind of the primary feature with the 2.0 release. But regardless if you have the basic or the pro version, really our core process stays exactly the same. Just a couple tweaks here and there. And that process is measuring. We have to get an accurate measurement of or tread depth of what's going on around that tire. And so we use our TreadSure gauge for that. That's exactly the same. Step 2, our workflow, inputting the data into the application is for the most part the same. Again, the pro version, we get a little more streamlined workflow for entering in that information. And then step 3 is where we start to see the biggest difference between the basic and the pro versions. Again, pro versions, we're generating a report that really allows you to bring that into your used equipment valuation software, whether it be MF Pro, Power EQ, Heavyworth. I could go on and on about several platforms that we're able to integrate in with because we're generating a picture format. But Bill, do you have anything you wanted to add on the process before we kind of start the video?
No, I think the main thing to remember is that when the database is robust, the database is going to have all the original 100% specs of the tire when it was manufactured in 30 seconds or in millimeters. And so that when you place that measurement in there, it's automatically going to calculate your percentage remaining based off of the original OEM spec. So often when you try to visually look at a tire, they all look like they're 50%, right? I mean, that's what all the salesmen always tell you. But that 50% on a Michelin might be 63%. But on a Firestone, it might be 48% based on that original OEM spec. And that's what this app brings to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the video demo. This is not the video demo, and hopefully no one's out there doing this with their tractors when they're bringing them on trade, but they are. You definitely need to do a TreadSure report on those. So let me get this pulled up here. So our new TreadSure report is something we're very excited to be releasing with the new pro version of our TreadSure 2.0 application. So with the TreadSure report, you're finally now going to be able to capture all the tires that are mounted on the piece of equipment and put it into a single report that is an image format that can be uploaded directly onto the equipment listing for you or your customers to take a look at, share, and have all the information on the tires up front. So before I get into how to actually generate the TreadSure report in the application, I first want to spend a little bit of time on how to properly measure the tires. This is a question we get a lot, and also kind of how to properly do one if you see uneven wear. So I just want to kind of touch on that. To do this, you're going to need your tread depth gauge that has 30 seconds of an inch. And if you have one of these new white gauges, is kind of what we're shipping out with 2.0, follow the instructions on the front to set this up properly. So we'll slide the ruler portion through the 2 slots of the gauge here, and you'll be able to get your measurement in 30/2 of an inch. Now, when we come up to a tire, our overall goal is to get the best average of the entire tire in terms of the tread depth that is left. So how we feel the best way to do that with the smallest amount of measurements as possible, because we can't go every square inch around the tire, is basically going 1/3 of the way in from either side of the tire and keeping that gauge parallel with the side, sliding it in till you're basically about halfway on the lugs. So once you're there, you keep your gauge perpendicular to the lugs itself and you slide the gauge down until the body makes contact. And when you pull your gauge away, you'll be able to see your measurement right there. And with the tension that we keep on that ruler portion, it doesn't go anywhere. So what we then do is we take our gauge with that measurement locked in and we set it at a couple different spots around the tire, kind of evenly spaced out as possible, doing maybe one from the front, 1/3 of the way in from the front, and then one from the 1/3 of the way to the back. So we'll just kind of maybe jump over here and put the gauge in from the back side. And again, we're kind of holding our measurement that we got on the front, setting it in there and validating that it is the same, which looks like we are. So this tire here, for example, we're getting about 42/32, and I can do that again, kind of placing that around, and I'm seeing a very balanced measurement around the tire. So I would say that the average tread depth on this tire is 42/32. Now, if we were to come up to a tire and we see a lot of uneven wear or kind of almost either in a U-shaped or tapering from side to side, what we then recommend is to do a couple more measurements across the tire to then again get that balanced measurement. So if you run across that situation, which doesn't happen too often, just take a few more measurements across the tire and that'll again give you that average, which is what we're looking for. So now that we kind of have an idea of how to properly measure the tire with our TreadSure gauge, we'll now be ready to properly do the TreadSure report. But we're going to need our phone with the TreadSure app installed, as well as access to the Pro version. So let me pull up the TreadSure app and we can just run through the exercise of how to properly do a TreadSure report. So when you open up the home screen, you'll see a few different options. Again, we're just going to focus on the TreadSure reports. For this, we're also going to need to input a few pieces of information about the machine, so that way our report can be tracked through the trade-in process or the resale process, and also it gives a little bit of a remarketing advantage too when you have it on there for the listing itself. So a few things of information you're going to need is a serial number. So we'll do the last 6, which is on the tag here. So we'll input that into our serial/reference number, and then we'll hit the add machine details button. We'll put in the make, model, year, and hours of this machine. So this is a John Deere combine, a 9560 STS. We'll put in the year, as well as the hours that are currently on the machine. We know that trades happen a lot of times beforehand, so it's always good to do this machine hours accurately, so when you go back to look at this machine listing, you know at what hours this measurement was taken, because if it goes back into the field for the season, you might want to do another TreadSure report to make sure you get the most up-to-date information on the tires. So once that information's in there, we'll hit continue, and we'll now be ready to start to put in our sidewall information as well as our tread depth information into the application. This new interface allows us to have more of a graphical approach to putting the tires in. So we'll hit the plus sign at our location that we're currently standing. The combine's a little bit goofy because obviously the bigger tires are in the front, but it's almost as if you're sitting in the steering wheel and holding your phone is kind of where we put the positions into. So for this, I always like to start with the outside tire. We'll put in now the sidewall information, which is our Firestone radial all traction 23 degrees, and our size is a 480 80R38. So we'll input all that into the application. You can put this data in by scrolling through all the models that we have, or you can start to narrow down the results by just typing it in. So there it is right there. And same with the size, we can type it in or scroll, whatever you prefer to do, and select the proper information that's on the sidewall. Next, we're gonna pay attention to the condition. We have a condition slider in here that allows you to just to kind of generalize poor, fair, good, or excellent condition. We still recommend taking good details photos of the tires and putting those on the listing, because condition can be very, very subjective. So we really still recommend to put in those photos onto the equipment listing. But for these tires here, we're looking for anything with big stubble damage, cuts, or weather cracking on the rubber itself. I don't see anything too bad on this, so I'm probably gonna rate this tire as good. Now we'll enter in our condition or our measurement on our depth slider here, which again, this tire, I got 42 30 seconds. Take those measurements kind of around here. Yep, still getting that 42 30 seconds. So we'll slide our depth slider over until we get that value, and we'll hit continue. So we see that tire now populated in the app. This tire right here is about 87% life remaining, and we'll continue this process now for the inside tire at this front left location. So I'll hit the plus sign again. I'll hit the inside tire. I'll hit that autofill button up at the top right there. This is gonna save you a lot of time when doing multiple tires on a machine, because it automatically inputs all that information. All we need to do is just validate that the sidewall info is the same, and we're not dealing with a mismatched tire set on the machine. So again, we'll now take our gauge, put it in at a couple different spots to validate this tread depth. Do one more measurement here. And here I'm getting about 45 30 seconds. So we'll slide our depth slider over and we'll hit continue. And we now see that that inside tire is actually about 93%. So we're kind of already seeing a difference from the inside to the outside tire. Again, it's really great to have that detail so you know if there's any uneven wear from driving the tractor on the road or anything else that happened while it was in operation. So now we're on the other side of the machine, so we'll hit the plus sign for the front right. We're on the outside tire, so we'll select that, and then we'll also hit that autofill button to then speed that process up for inputting that info. Now again, we'll take our measurements in a few different places. 42 30 seconds there, about the same. And one more measurement here, getting about, again, that 42 30 seconds. So pretty balanced from the other side of the tire. So we'll slide that depth slider back over to 42 30 seconds and then continue the process for the next tire. Again, hitting that autofill button is a big lifesaver, especially if you have a machine with duals all the way around it. We're getting a lot of really great feedback on that feature by itself. So this one's about 43 30 seconds. All these tires in really great condition, not seeing much stubble damage or cracks or anything to really be concerned about on these. So we'll leave our slider at good and we'll hit continue. Now that we're jumping back to the rear tires, we're gonna have to re-input all of our information into our data field, because we typically know that tires are not the same from front to back. So in order to get that autofill function set back up for the rear tires, we'll have to input in all that sidewall information. Because we only have one tire here, I'll just select inside location, and this is a Firestone. What do we got here? Traction, field, and road. So I'll type that in so I don't have to go all the way down to the T's. Got to spell the word right first. And then also our size, which is the 14.924. So we'll hit that there, first selection. And then we'll look over the rear tires. This one, seeing a little more stubble damage. I'm seeing some cuts on a couple lugs. So I'm probably gonna rate this tire as fair. Don't see any big damage, so I don't think we need to go to poor. There's still a lot of good life left in this rear tire here. So then we'll put in our gauge again, double checking in a couple different spots. I'm getting about 22, 30 seconds here. So I'll slide that slider over, and these rear tires about 45%. So last tire up, come around to the other side to wrap up this report. We'll hit the plus sign, hit that inside button, validate that it's the same, hit that autofill, and then last but not least, do our quick measurement around here. This one I'm seeing a bit more tread life remaining, about 25, 30 seconds. So I'll slide the step slider back over, and this tire is at about 52% life remaining. So now just do a quick glance over of all the tires you've inputted into the interface, because sometimes your finger can slip on that slider and really throw off the measurement. Everything here looks about how I remembered it, so I think we're good to go ahead and download and generate this report. So we'll hit the download button. You can also email yourself the report by hitting that email button. It sends you the same exact end result, but I like to have it on my phone, so that way I can send it to whoever I need to, or upload it to, say, the listing software that this machine is on. So I'll hit download, and then if I go over to my camera roll, I will see that report waiting for me there with my organization logo on there, all that machine information. And at each location, we can see the make, model, size, the tread depth that we measured, and then ultimately the tread life remaining on what that calculation was. So really a valuable tool for you to use on your equipment listings or in your internal processes as well as software. So be sure to reach out to us, learn more about the TreadSure Report, get set up as a pro user, check out our website at treadsure.app. All right, well, hopefully that helped give everybody a bit of an idea of what the TreadSure report really is. Again, just to summarize, it really is helpful that it generates a report in a picture format, so that way it is compatible with really any listing software, any listing service, or super easy to text to customers or anybody else in the organization that is interested in that tire or that machine. So with that, we're going to go ahead and open it up to Q&A. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. And Bill, I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything else before we kind of jump into some questions.
Well, and again, I go back to the reporting function of number one in the evaluation process. When you're evaluating a piece of used equipment and you have the exact measurements and the exact tire brand, how much it helps you to make an accurate valuation for a trade-in. And in doing that, beforehand, it was always a risk. You miss a tire calculation on a four-wheel drive tractor, that's worth $20,000 to you, 20,000 in margin that you could have had because you're going to put new rubber on it, or you're going to have to drop the price on it to compensate the fact that it needs rubber. So one missed evaluation and one miss on the tires could save you $20,000 at least. So it is a great thing. So number one, from an evaluation standpoint, the accuracy of valuing the trade, and number two, from an advertising standpoint, the integrity of the listing and being able to accurately advertise the piece of equipment online. So,
yeah, very good point, Bill.
Preston and Bill, if you had chosen the email the report option versus the download, would it have also sent it as that image, or would it have sent the report in a different form?
So it would have also sent that image, but it would have sent to the email that the account was set up with. So it would basically be attached on the email and also visible on the email format, but it would just allow you to send it again to that username that you had set up under the account. So same end product, just however you prefer to have that, whether it be on your desktop or on your mobile device. That's a good question.
And you can't set it up to send it to a separate email address too, correct?
Correct.
Is that something you do as you're working on that individual report, or would that be you always are sending it to Preston and Bill or something like that?
So again, it always defaults to that email address. And now that I think about it, I believe that the report function, it has to be done after that report is generated. The trade-in feature that we have also allows you to add a secondary email onto that report. So it actually does happen on, once that email is received, you can then forward it on as that attachment.
Okay. For people who have used the previous iteration of the app, what's going to be what they notice is the biggest difference between 2.0 and the original?
So initially, when you first go to download or update the app, which is a good reminder, if you do have TreadSure download on your phone right now, be sure to go and update your app so you're on the latest version and have the latest functions and features of the free version. But the biggest thing you're going to notice is the home screen. We've changed up the home screen a bit on the free version of the application so that it's just one button selection to start your calculation. But when you're on the pro version, you'll see 3 different options on the home screen: the TreadSure Report, the quick calculator, as well as that trade-in feature as well. So initially, that's probably the biggest difference you're going to notice between the current version and the new free version is the home screen is going to be a little bit different for you, but all the functionality is still there. And with the free version, we also allow you to email yourself photos along with that free form. It's not going to be the report, but you can also send over some photos of the tires as well through the free version of the application. So, but please go update your application if you haven't already, or if you're brand new, just go to the App Store and 2.0 will be the option for you to download. I know we also got a question about the condition and do we have a way to evaluate condition. I just want to touch on that really quick. I mentioned it in the video, but today we only have the ability to really generalize condition with that condition slider of the poor, fair, good, or excellent. Again, we really recommend taking good detailed photos of any questionable wear condition or damage on the tire, because it's really hard, similar to trying to guess the tread life remaining. It's really hard to, I guess, generalize the condition. So it can be really, really subjective. So really detailed photos are our answer for looking at the condition. But that slider helps because on the report, if you see the slider at poor or fair, it's going to remind you to go check out that tire at that location to make sure there isn't something else you need to pay attention to on that tire. So that's really kind of the purpose of that condition slider. It's more of a reminder or an assurance that, hey, this tire looks brand new, it's in excellent condition, or there's a poor condition, what's going on? Let's go look at the photos. So I wanted to make sure I retouched on that question as well.
Would you say that excellent condition is basically like new? Is that what you would equate excellent to?
Yeah, if you can still see, like the stubbies on the between the lugs or on the tire, and really, really clean, no damage whatsoever, or conditional wear, that's kind of when we recommend to say they're excellent. So pretty much, yeah, anywhere between that 95 to 90% life remaining, which sometimes it can be less if it's been on the road for a while. But again, when the tire is fairly new is typically when we see that excellent condition. But it's hard to generalize that how much life is remaining, because it could have been running down the highway for 100 miles or something like that. So
all right, does anyone else have any questions for Preston and Bill?
I'm not seeing any come across here, but
okay. Oh, just a thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. I believe this webinar is going to be pre-recorded and also sent out. But anyway, if anybody's interested in learning more about the pro features, here's the contact information for myself as well as Bill. Also, I want to mention everybody, if you can take out your phones and scan that QR code. If you don't have one of these white tread depth gauges, we're going to be giving these away and getting some sent out to you. So scan that, fill out the information, and we'll get some tread depth gauges headed in your direction. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention with the new release, we do have our new website that has all the pricing information, as well as some more information on what we touched on today. But along with that, we now have a desktop version of the TreadSure application. Same exact user interface and everything as the phone. So if you look at that link there, if you do web.treadsure.app, you will actually see our desktop version of the TreadSure application. We know some people prefer to do this at their desktop, so we're now able to give people that option. But again, check out our website too, because we have a brand new revamped website that has some more information about the pro features that we touched on today. But be sure to scan that and we'll get some gauges headed out.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. And we also did add that link to request the tread depth gauge to the survey that you guys will get once you leave the webinar. So if you forget to scan it, we'll leave it up for a second. You can also see it at the survey that will pop up once we're done. All right. So with that, we will wrap things up. Like Preston mentioned, we did record the session, so it'll be available up on the Farm Equipment website in case you want to review it or have anyone else watch it. Keep an eye on your email and our eWatch newsletter for more information on when that's available. On behalf of Preston, Bill, and everyone at Dawson Tire and Wheel, thank you for joining us for today's digital demo. Like I said, when you leave, there'll be a short survey, so please let us know what you thought of the event, request your tread depth gauge, and share any ideas you might have for future topics. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.